What's going on, everybody, and welcome into another edition of the 5 Minute Debate. I am your host, Justin Wright, and this week I am joined by very special guest, none other than Jeff Greenwood, the man on Tackling Dummies, writer for the Fantasy Footballers. Jeff, how is it going, man?
It's going good, dude. Thanks for having me on, and I really like the intro music.
Yeah, right. It's got a little funky vibe to it. we,
It's
we,
a
ha- we
pleasure
had
to
a
be on.
Yeah, no, we're thrilled to have you. Before we kind of jump right in, again, if you guys aren't aware, today we are talking Darrell Henderson versus Gus Edwards, two of the unfortunate beneficiaries of the training camp injuries this offseason. But before that, Jeff, why don't you let everybody know where they can find you again, where they can find some of your work and what else you're working on?
So I'm Jeff Greenwood. I am a writer for the Fantasy Footballers. You can find me on Twitter at the Fantasy ENG. I also do a podcast with a good friend of mine, lifelong friend, and you can find us at tackle_dummies on Twitter.
Fantastic. Let's get in. We're here. People are here for a quick debate. Again, we're doing Darrell Henderson versus Gus Edwards. As always, we got the timer. We're ready to go. Jeff, what do you have on Gus Edwards this year?
So Gus Edwards is, I think, one of the most underrated running backs in all of football. If you want to look from a talent perspective, He's been in the league for 3 years. He's been over 5 yards per carry each of the past 3 years. He's had over 100 carries each of the past 3 years. Also, each of the past 3 years, the Ravens have been top 2 in rush attempts and rushing yards. If you look at last season, the Ravens had 555 rushing attempts. If you take that same number and apply it to this year, you could give Lamar Jackson, who I love, 170 attempts, which is more than last year. You could still extract 255 plus for Gus Edwards and still have 170 left over for, Tyson Williams and Justice Hill. So I think the workload is going to be there. I'm all about Gus Edwards.
Yeah, I fully agree with you that I think he is going to, he's going to run forever. He really is. But my concern is the receiving work. And I think that's where the Darrell Henderson argument gets interesting, because I do think Gus Edwards is going to outtouch Henderson. He's probably going to score more touchdowns. I'm pretty confident in that as well. But I think Darrell Henderson, at least with the receiving upside, and while he hasn't been a huge, receiving back in the true sense of the word, he's an extremely effective pass catcher. And if you look at the rest of that roster, it's very similar to where the Ravens really don't have much behind Gus Edwards. The Rams have Sony Michel, who they just traded for, and I'm not overly concerned about Sony Michel, to be perfectly honest. I've seen enough of him to know that I think he is probably one of the better backups in the NFL, and he's good depth. But I do think this ends up being Henderson's split, whether it's a 60-40, 65-35. I think Henderson leads that split, and on what projects to be an extremely effective offense with Matthew Stafford there now. I just think the upside is a lot higher with Henderson. Although I do see that Gus Edwards, the weekly floor with Edwards is going to be, it's 10 to 12 points no matter what every week, I think.
I think that's a fair point. I do think that Henderson is going to get more passing work. And it's a good point. Like whether you're even in non-PPR leagues, a target is worth more than a rush attempt. So I'm with you from that aspect. However, I think that, they got Darrell Henderson, I think in the second round a couple of years ago.
Yeah, third round, 2019.
Third round, thank you. And so they drafted Cam Akers in the second last year, I believe, right?
Yes.
So I thought for me there were some flags with drafting a new running back and then immediately kind of going after Sony Michel. I'm with you. I think he's kind of, a pretty good rusher, almost similar to Gus Edwards in a way. So I think he's going to steal some of the rushing work. I don't think he's going to steal away the targets, even though he has that capability. I think that Darrell Henderson is going to be the guy there. But ultimately for me, it's like I want a piece of the Ravens rushing offense.
Yeah, I don't blame you. And again, the whole argument really is based on, do you want a guy that could run for 1,200 yards, Or do you want a guy that's probably, a 600-yard rusher, maybe throwing in 50 catches for 500 yards? I think that's really the difference because, I mean, if he doesn't, and efficiency does drop off, obviously the more carries, the more volume guys see. I don't know if I expect Gus to see, 5.5 yards a carry with 250 plus carries. That would be phenomenal. He could lead the league in rushing with that, to be perfectly honest. It would be great. But I just don't know if he'll have, and again, it just comes down to pass work. And I'm going to say it over and over. And if you're listening, you're probably thinking, we get it, pass work. But when you look at guys like Josh Jacobs in 2019, he had almost 1,200 rushing yards, 9 touchdowns on the ground. He capped out at RB21. And where these guys are going, I think they're both, again, we don't have Gus Edwards' new ADP yet. I think it'll be very similar to Darrell Henderson, right around RB25, 26. If I'm taking that guy, I think as my third running back, I want the ceiling compared to, again, I think Gus is locked into a top 24 finish, but I don't know if I see him breaking into the top 20, which I think Henderson, that's in his range of outcomes.
I understand the argument. I respect that. I do think that Gus will still get the vast majority of the workload, and I think he's more talented. I really do. If you look at even yards created, beyond opportunity. So yeah, so I think I'm going to take the talent on a top 2 rushing offense, and I totally agree. He's not going to get as many targets. I think total number of touches is going to be greater. So I'm all for Gus Edwards and just throwing a dart, and not even a dart. But my point is putting my cards in on something that I think talent and opportunity should be pretty good in the NFL.
Yeah, no, I'm completely with you. And I know we're just over 5 minutes, but I want to ask one question before we kind of wrap up here. Where are you looking to take Gus Edwards? Because again, obviously his ADP is not really, it hasn't found solid ground. We're a day removed recording this. This will be out Friday. We're recording Monday night. Where are you looking for Gus Edwards?
That's a great question. It's a hard question to answer. I'm going to go
hard.
Yeah, I know.
I've struggled so much.
and the same thing is true for Henderson. I would personally take Edwards above Henderson, and I would take Edwards as early as the early 5th round in single QB leagues. So that's where I'd put my chips in. I just did an article about 3 safe running backs to draft in 2021 in the middle rounds, with the kicker being there are 0 safe running backs in the middle rounds. But Gus Edwards is one of the guys I like. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to throw out a couple names here just based off of that. So Gus Edwards or Mike Davis?
Gus Edwards.
Okay. Yeah, completely agree with that one. Obviously, we know Gus Edwards, Darrell Henderson. Gus Edwards or Raheem Mostert?
Edwards.
Yep, same here. And then last one, Gus Edwards or Chase Edmonds?
Still Edwards.
Yep. Okay. We're on the exact same page. The only one we're different on is really Henderson Edwards. Well, Jeff, thank you for joining me, man. It was an absolute pleasure. Again, we'll be doing this throughout the season. So if you ever got some free time, we'll need guests for, weeks 1 through 17, 18 this year. So we'll have to have you back on.
Well, thanks a lot, man. This was a ton of fun.
All right, guys. As always, you can find me over on Twitter at Justin_14P. Remember to subscribe to the 14 Personnel YouTube channel, and we will see you guys next time.